by the UN's chief, and the UN's most powerful body, the Security Council, is expected to finalise sanctions against Gaddafi and his entourage on Saturday. All this after the Libyan leader joined his supporters in the capital, turning out to vow that he will not step down from office and to fight to the end. Well, the implications of those vows were already seen on the streets of Tripoli. Protesters were fired upon as another crackdown began after Friday prayers. We'll hear shortly from someone who is in that situation. Meanwhile, just 50 kilometres away in Zawiya, a different picture emerging. This amateur video appears to show more soldiers switching sides to join the protesters. Tarek Basley reports.
Riding high on the shoulders of their countrymen, this video, which cannot be independently verified, appears to show army officers in the city of Zawiya. Having turned against the government, they now enjoy the support of the protesters. It's a scene anti-government demonstrators say is being repeated across the country as the government loses control of more and more areas. In the eastern city of Benghazi, calls for Muammar Gaddafi to be brought to justice.
We do not want him to flee to another country. We want to punish him because he shed Libyan blood. He killed our young people.
And in the capital, Tripoli, this footage appears to show anti-Gaddafi protesters moving unchallenged in the city on Friday. Earlier on, the city saw violent scenes as security forces loyal to the colonel fired on protesters. Footage later emerged which appears to show victims of the violence, the use of live ammunition and clear evidence. Later in the day, Gaddafi appeared in front of supporters in Green Square, insisting the population was still behind him.
The Libyan people, if I'm not loved by my people, I don't deserve to live. If my people, the Arab and African peoples, and all peoples do not love Muammar al-Gaddafi does not deserve to live only for one day.
Colonel Gaddafi's defiance contrasting with the view of senior officials who have admitted large parts of the country are now controlled by his opponents. But his son's now on a media offensive, telling invited journalists that Libya's armed forces have not attacked peaceful protesters.
I urge the Europeans to send fact-finding mission to Libya as soon as possible, because we are not afraid of facts. We are worried about rumors and lies.
To back him up, state television has been showing statements by army officers.
We are not fighting the youth because they are part of our people. We are only fighting the bandits. We had strict orders not to attack civilians but to defend ourselves and minimize casualties. The pictures shown on media outlets, including AlJazeera, are old, and I challenge anyone to show any new pictures of violence against civilians.
Those who want Gaddafi gone may be feeling emboldened, but for now it seems he's digging in his heels. Tarek Basley, AlJazeera.
Now, our correspondent Nazanin Moshiri has been on the Tunisian border in the town of Ras Ajdir for some time now and talking to people as they come through from Libya. Naz, you're not too far away from Zawiya, where a lot seems to have been going on. What are you hearing from the folks that are fleeing there?
We're about 150 metres away from Libyan soil, and Zawiya is down the road about 120 kilometres from where we are. What we're hearing is that it is still very much in the hands of the people. And Tarek's report is right. We are hearing that police and army have changed sides within the town, and they have set up a military committee, so basically protecting themselves. They have 4 tanks. They have 6 RPGs, small weaponry, rifles, handguns. They've set up checkpoints around Zawiya. But the problem for them is that the main roads to this border are still very much in the hands of pro-Gaddafi forces. And we're talking about plain-clothes people who are militia, who are loyal to Gaddafi. They are armed to the teeth. We asked somebody what kind of arms they have, and we were told, what don't they have? They have everything. So the problem is they have these towns in their control, not just Zawiya, but Zuwaira as well, and other small towns along the way. But the main roads and also this important border are still in the hands of pro-Gaddafi forces.
Tell us a little bit more about the people that are crossing the border to where you are. Are they, where do they come from? What are they doing? What are they telling you about what their plans are?
Well, I've been here for days now, and I have seen thousands of Tunisians, but in the last day, what I have seen is thousands of Egyptians coming across this border. There are 1.5 million Egyptians living in Libya, and many of the Egyptians we've spoken to who are now flooding across into Tunisia say they're frightened, extremely frightened about what they've seen, the violence. They've left their homes, left everything. These are labourers, workers who have been working there for years. We are expecting, sources here are telling us, a further 10,000 Egyptians to come across this border. This is a huge problem for Tunisia. The potential of a humanitarian crisis is very, very aware, and the people here are aware of it. They're trying to prepare for it by setting up tents and a field hospital just close to where we are. But what are they going to do with these people? Are they going to be taken to ports and airports and flown back to Egypt? Well, that's a question that the Tunisians have to answer.
Nazanin Moshiri, live in AlJazeera on the border of Tunisia and Libya. Thanks, Naz. Now, the UN Security Council has now drawn up a draft resolution aimed at isolating Libya's political and military leaders. Measures could include targeted sanctions and an arms embargo, and even a referral to the International Criminal Court. Libya's UN ambassador, meanwhile, has denounced Colonel Gaddafi just 3 days after expressing public support for the leader. In an emotional speech, Shalgam said he could not believe the violence that Gaddafi is now inflicting on his own people, and he's asked the UN to help save Libyan citizens. The UN's chief, Ban Ki-moon, has also urged the UN to act right away. He gave what he sees as harrowing details of what's been going on.
Estimates indicate that more than 1,000 people have been killed. The eastern part of the country is reported to be under the control of opposition elements who have taken over arms and ammunition from weapon depot. There are daily clashes in at least 3 cities near Tripoli. The streets of the capital are largely deserted. People cannot leave their houses for fear of being shot by government forces or militias. Colonel Gaddafi's supporters are reportedly conducting house-by-house searches and arrests. According to some reports, they have even gone into hospitals to kill wounded opponents.
Well, after a week of cautious verbal condemnation, the US has now moved to take concrete action against the Gaddafi regime. Washington says it's moving to freeze the personal assets of Gaddafi and his 4 children. All US banks have been put on notice to watch out for any sudden movement of funds from Libya. And all US military assistance will now be cut off. This new stance unveiled shortly after the last US embassy staff were flown out of the country. 183 other Americans were also evacuated by ferry. Now, Libyan Americans have raised a pre-Gaddafi flag outside the home of the Libyan ambassador in Washington. This as Obama's administration suspended all operations at its Tripoli office. But Washington stressing it hasn't broken diplomatic relations, saying that it wants to retain the ability to communicate directly with Libyan officials. Meanwhile, in Cairo, Libyans have taken down the green Libyan flag that was introduced by Gaddafi at their Arab League base. They too have raised the old red, black and green flag that was used before Gaddafi came to power. Libya's ambassador to the Arab League has also broken ranks with Gaddafi over the violence. Now let's go to Libya. We're joined on the phone by Abu Youssef, who's near Tripoli and has been involved in some of the activities that have been going on. Thank you for talking to us. Can you tell us what you have seen in the past day or so?
Okay, sorry about my voice. I lost my voice a bit. First of all, I would like to give my condolences to all the people who lost their beloved one. Some people have lost their sons, some families have lost their husbands. I think them have a little bit of patience and things, inshallah, will be changed very, very soon. Secondly, I would like to send a message to the American, to the British governments, both of them. I tell them these people who are killing the Libyans today are trained and armed by you. You are the one who trained them and armed them. All the machines they are using is actually your own machine.
But sorry to interrupt you, Abu Yusuf. But could you just, for the purposes of people who don't get much information out of the country, can you just tell us about what you are seeing on the ground? What is the condition of the protests? What sort of force are you seeing being used?
I can tell you the experience yesterday. Actually, we prayed in AlJazeera, and about 500 people, were, prayed in the mosque. After the mosque, they come and around about in AlJazeera, and they were heading for the Green Square. By the time we reached an area called El Hani, we were about something between 30 to 35, maybe 40,000 people. We were actually heading for the Green Square. Over there, we actually were. There were troops, special forces from Khamis, Gaddafi's son, and also some missionary were waiting there for the people. We were armed with the anti-craft air machine guns and Kalashnikovs. As soon actually as we crossed, we arrived in the cross road in El Hani, they start shooting.
And you saw the forces deliberately targeting protesters with live weapons, right?
Ammunition actually were in the top of our head, and one person next to me, I've already loaded, the video for this person who died. A bullet went right to his head. They were using a very special tear gases that actually, makes the people faint. It's not, very special. And this has been actually supplied by the British and the Americans to the Libyan regime. So there was, yesterday, I suspect between 10 to 20 people actually were died in Tripoli. They are shooting just to kill. After they finish, the shooting from this area, they went to the street by street, beating up all the bodies, of the people who died, cleaning the blood, with water, and searching, the houses house by house. And if they find anybody that is suspected, they will kill him and take his body. I mean, what we are seeing in Libya is unbelievable. I don't know how the international, the American and the British, who are really involved, in this one because they supply them.
Okay, Abu Yusuf,
how can they allow such a thing, to happen?
Could I just ask you to repeat that? You're saying that the forces are now going house to house. What are they looking for?
Yesterday, actually, after the demonstration, they were looking for the people who are demonstrating, the 35,000 people who are coming. They were searching the houses and they were killing, the actual, shooting. It was nearly for an hour and a half.
We've heard Colonel Gaddafi live in Tripoli yesterday, talking to the people, saying that he hasn't given orders to fight, but he will come down on it. And we've heard his son saying that the situation is not as you are describing. How has the population reacted to Gaddafi's speech?
I tell you something, these people have already been given order.